Story time about how my boyfriend is abusive to his parents. What should I do? My boyfriend and I have been dating for 11 months. Here's a little backstory. We both work at the same company and live very far from our parents. I try to go home once a month since my parents are only 2 hours away from me. His parents live in a different country. For that reason, I haven't met his parents. But he's met my parents and he's been completely respectful and really nice to them. So I never suspected that he could be abusive to his parents. So here's what happened. We flew over to his parents and they are very rich. His mom is an interior designer and their house is phenomenal. His dad owns a couple of businesses and together they are very wealthy. His parents went to pick us up at the airport and everything was fine until we got to their house. They decided to give me a tour of their ginormous mansion. That's when I noticed that my boyfriend was being kind of rude to them. Every time they would ask me a question, he would answer and be like, duh, she likes pizza. He even asked his mom to stop asking stupid questions. I stopped him in his tracks and in front of his parents I said, why are you being rude to your parents? The look on his parents' face was of shock. And that's when I realized that they had never disciplined him. But then it got worse. The look on his parents' face when I called him out for being rude to them was complete shock. After they gave me the tour of the house, we decided to sit down for dinner. They are so rich that they have their own chef. That's when the chef comes out and starts serving all the food. And as soon as my boyfriend sees what they served, he grabs his glass of water and bangs it against the table. He looks at both of his parents and says, what the fuck is wrong with you both? The color from their faces drain. That's when they said, I'm sorry, we didn't know he was gonna make this. The chef decided to make a really fancy meatloaf. Apparently he hates meatloaf. Then he said, well, tell him to make something else. His mother gets up and runs to the kitchen and asks the chef to make him a burger because that's his favorite food, which by the way, I never even knew that. He always told me his favorite food was Indian. His mom comes back from the kitchen, then he looks at me and says, you don't have to eat that shit if you don't want to. I told him that he was being a brat and that I'd be happy to eat the meatloaf. His parents look at me and smile. My boyfriend just gets up from the table and runs away. Can you believe I had to chase after him? That's when my stupid boyfriend runs away from the dinner table. So of course I have to chase him. And of course I'm angry at this point. I ask him why he's being so rude to his parents. Then he literally denies that he just did anything. His words were, you're reading too much into it. My parents are stupid anyway. I looked at him and I said, do you not see the mansion we're standing in? How did two stupid people manage to build this mansion, 4 businesses, and put you through school? He rolls his eyes at me and says, Jesus Christ, you sound like my parents. I told him that he was a privileged rat. You see, I come from a family where we don't have chefs and we don't have millions of dollars or a mansion. So I appreciate everything my parents did for me. I went back to the dining room and I told his parents it was nice to meet them, but that I could no longer be with their son. That's when his mom started begging me not to leave. It was hard, but I called an Uber and I went home. My boyfriend's been begging me to get back with him. He's trying really hard too. His parents are even offering to pay my student loans. I'm honestly confused now. What should I do?
I, 43 female, have been dating B, 44 male, for 9 months. We've had some amazing times as well as some bumps in the road. He has 2 daughters, Kate 13 and Elle 11. I met them both 4 months ago and they're super awesome chicks. Funny, beautiful, and talented. Immediately, Elle and I clicked because I swear she's a younger version of me. On Mondays and Tuesdays, Elle would have her dad B drop her off and pick her up from play lessons, and I would ride along and the 3 of us would cut up, make terrible yo mama jokes, and overall have a blast. If and when I couldn't ride along, she would be upset and she didn't know if and when she would see me again since you've had a lot of terrible girlfriends and I really like Kay. Please don't screw this up. About a month ago, one of her play classes was canceled, so we had an hour to kill and all came back to my house. Elle loves horror movies and stories, so I introduced her to Mr. Ballin and we started watching one of my favorites while B went outside to smoke. I'm sitting on the couch and Ella has her back leaning up against my shoulder while she kicked out her feet in the other direction. I have a sister, several nieces and ton of gal pals, and nothing was abnormal or weird. Just typical chilling on the couch stuff. No, I didn't have my arm around her, nor was I even touching her. I have a 13-year-old son and this was normal, even for him. Well, B came in from smoking and immediately started giving me the evil eye. I was wondering what was wrong, never thinking he thought that there was something inappropriate going on between me and his 11-year-old daughter. Ella and I finished watching the episode, all while B would look at us like we were 2 teenagers. Shortly after the stink eye began, the episode ended and it was time to go. I pulled B aside and asked him what was wrong and he said, oh, nothing, in a way like he just caught me cheating or something. After we dropped Elle off, who never knew there was now a rift between her dad and I broke down. I asked him straight out if he thought I would ever harm Elle or any child in any way. He explained it away that he was just an overprotective dad and that Elle is impressionable and wanted to protect her. I don't have daughters, only a son, so I told him that I was sorry, even though the whole accusation really broke my heart and nothing more was said. We continued to ride along to take her to her lessons and even went to her play last weekend. Flash forward to yesterday. We're at his folks' lake house for early Thanksgiving, 2 hours early, and it's a gorgeous day. Elle and Kay are restless and want to go on an adventure. I asked B to grab my walking shoes out of the car. I was wearing heels, and suggested that we all go on a walk in the wooded beach area by the water. B got my shoes. We all announced that we were going for a walk in the woods and took off. B didn't express interest when we asked him to come as he was chatting with his folks. Kay ended up wearing my heels and it was super funny watching her stumble around in the woods with them on. She actually hiked a good distance in them. Mind you, this is right next to the house, and since all the leaves have fallen, you can see the whole area where we are. It wasn't a day hike or anything. Kay tapped out after a bit though and turned back towards the house. Elle was way far ahead and alone, so I followed her and we ended up by the water. You can literally see us from the house, so it's like a short hike. And had a great time taking pictures, looking at cool rocks and moss, and overall having a kumbaya moment when we hear B call out. We both are excited he decided to join us. Seriously, we were only gone for 10 minutes at this point, when he yells at us from the cliff above for not answering him the first 2 times when he called out. We didn't hear him, and I told him that I was sorry, but he should come down and hang out with us. He simply turned around and walked away, leaving Elle and us alone and confused. I told her that we should head back up so I could sort this out, and we did immediately. I asked him what the hell, and he said he was scared he couldn't find us. I then asked why did he ignore us and walk away instead of joining us and having a beautiful moment. He said because I know how you are and I was upset you two were alone together, not answering me. This is when I asked him what he meant by saying I know how you are. When I specifically asked what he meant by I know how you are, his only answer was that because I've had sex with other women. So here I am, devastated that for the second time in my life, I'm being accused of pretty much having pedo tendencies. Stuck 2 hours away from home at his parents' lake house on Thanksgiving Sunday. I told him that if he really thought that I would harm Elle or any other child, why the fuck didn't he just come join us? Why walk away? Why stay with someone who you think may harm your child? I told him that we would talk about it later and went inside and acted like it was all well. He even apologized and pawed at me for the rest of our time there, and I just put on a fake smile and went with it. I was heartbroken and in shock. Once we got back home last night, he kept trying to initiate sex and act like everything was fine, and I sat on the couch trying to find the words. I told him that it was over. I won't be with someone who thinks I would harm a child. I also won't be with someone that dates someone that they think would harm their child. I told him that there really wasn't anything left to talk about, and he went through all the stages of grief right before my eyes in about an hour. I just sat there in stunned silence. All the love I had for him went away the moment I realized he was accusing me for the second time. To be clear, no one in this story, including the girls, have ever been a victim of grooming, R-word or M-word. Not even I, nor B, nor anyone on either side of the family, so it's unclear, other than his alcohol consumption, where this is coming from. I let him stay the night and told him that he could get his things in the morning since it was late and he was drunk. This morning, he acted like everything was normal and asked if he could come back tonight, all while my skin was crawling and I couldn't wait for him to leave. I want to call B's mom as well as L's mom and explain why I won't be in their life anymore. We all got along really well, so cutting ties really sucks, but not sure if I should. How the fuck do you tell someone you've been implicated in having inappropriate contact with a member of their family? I plan on gathering his things and telling him that I never want to see him again. What should I do?
I'm back in my hometown. I decided I'm going to tell you guys the story of how I found my college ex-boyfriend cheating on me on Thanksgiving. So my ex and I were doing Thanksgiving at my uncle's house, and then we were going to go to his aunt and uncle's house. We were just splitting them up. My ex was driving us to his uncle's house, and he was like, hey, can you text my cousin the address? And I found that super weird because I don't fucking know his cousin, nor do I have his cousin's phone number in my phone whatsoever. And my ex would normally just like let me take his phone to text his cousin to figure out what the address was. So I'm like, babe, just give me your phone because I don't have your cousin's number, so I'm just gonna text him from your phone. As soon as I say this, I see him swiping to delete a message. I'm like, absolutely fucking not. I grabbed that phone so quickly to see that he was texting another woman. Keep in mind, my ex is driving at this time and he's freaking the fuck out. I'm like, who is this bitch? Who is this bitch? And he's not telling me anything. He's lying to me. And I could just like tell that he was lying to me. So I decide to text her like I'm him. He told me he met her at school, and I text her and I'm like, I love the story of how we met. Can you tell me again? Like pretending to be him. He's like, we met at that charity event. And I look at him, I'm like, really? You're trying to fuck another bitch while you're supposed to be helping kids with cancer? Really? So then I'm texting her and I'm like, have I ever told you, really? I'm like, have I ever told you how beautiful you are? She's like, you tell me I'm beautiful every day. I'm like, really? I tell you you're beautiful every day. Babe, really? Every day? So then I'm like, have I told you that we really need to hang out? And she's like, you've been talking about it for a while that we should really go on a date. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm done. And so I look at my ex, I'm like, fuck this, I'm done. I throw his phone at him. I'm like, forget it, we're done. Take me back home. I'm not going to your uncle's house whatsoever. I'm done with you. Like, we're no longer together. This man starts losing his mind, screaming, crying while he's driving. So he's swerving on the highway. And I'm like, fuck, like, I'm literally about to die at this point. Like, no, we can't be done. We can't be done. Like, bawling his eyes out, like, you know how they do when they've been caught cheating and they somehow start crying. I don't give a fuck. Take me home right now. He's like, no, we're not going home. I'm like, okay, he's literally gonna fucking kill me. Because he's fully swerving on the highway and he's not giving a single fuck. So I'm like, okay, I want to live. So I look at him, I'm like, babe, just take me back to my condo, literally my mom's house, because we can just like talk through this. We can just like walk through this. I know you're gonna hate me, but go to part 2. So we get to my mom's condo, and my mom and sisters and everybody is there, and I walk in, and like I'm in tears, he's in tears, and my mom's like, what's wrong? I'm like, he fucking cheated, like, are we surprised? And he's like in tears, he's like, you said you wouldn't do this, you said you wouldn't tell anybody, and I'm like, oops, sorry, I fucking lied just like you. So then he's crying, talking to my mom, and I just go into my room, and I'm like, I cannot be bothered with this, I'm over it. And I just keep hearing them talking about like, if we're still together, he's like, I want to be together. My mom's like, she'll take you back. And I'm like, no, the fuck I won't. No, I won't. And I stood by that. And I was not taking him back because I wasn't going to be with him after he fully was cheating on me. Also, this was like not the first time I caught him doing some weird, shady, sketchy stuff. God, does my eyelash look horrible. Wait, they slay. Also, what really pissed me off is that my mom and my sister were like completely taking his side. They're like, he didn't fully cheat. And I was like, because he didn't have an opportunity to put his dick in her yet, but I'm sure he would have. Like, whatever, I literally don't care. I'm still leaving. I don't care if anyone thinks I'm dramatic. I don't want to be treated like that. Because that's cheating in my eyes. Or even like attempting cheating. Really? I'm telling the story about how you literally, when my ex cheated on me and you were like, he didn't do anything wrong. Now, honey. Oh, God. No. So we ended, but the breakup was pretty toxic from there on out. That relationship ended, but that was not the end of a toxic breakup. But now every time I'm back at my mom's, it like pops into my head. Like I literally forget about it. And then like Thanksgiving comes around and I'm like, I remember when that happened.
Story time about why I will never go Black Friday shopping ever again. So a little background information. I was 13 and in 8th grade. And my best friends and I were super excited because we'd never been Black Friday shopping before. So we had a plan that all of us would spend the night at my house and my mom would drive us to the mall at 4 in the morning. So fast forward, it's 4 in the morning and my friends and I are ready to go to the mall and my mom came with us, but we didn't stay with her the whole time. So as we were walking to the first store, we realized that there were these 3 guys behind us that have kind of been following us around since we got into the mall. But we just think it's a coincidence because, you know, it's Black Friday, the mall is packed. There are obviously going to be people going the same exact way as us. So we go into the first store, we get what we want to get, and the men didn't follow us in there. But as we're making our way to the next store, we realize that they're following us again. It was like they waited outside the first store for us to come out. So then we decided that we were going to walk around one of the kiosks a few times to see if they were really following us. And of course they were, so we went into another store and they didn't follow us in that one either. So I go up to one of the workers and I asked if they could possibly like call security or something because there are these guys following us, and she said yeah. So like I said, my friends and I go into the one store and of course they don't follow us in there, so we ask an employee if they can call security. So whenever security got there, I told them that these guys had been following us around since we got into the mall. And then security's like, well, where's your mother? Acting like it was our fault that we could be kidnapped for not being with my mom. So after that, he's like, all right, just go find your mom, you know, I'll talk to them. So I call my mom and I'm like, hey, where are you? Of course, she's on the whole other side of the mall. So my friends and I are going to meet her on the other side of the mall, and we look back to see if the security guard was talking to them, and literally the security guard just walked out of the store and went the complete opposite way. Then we walk up to the security guard and we're like, you didn't even talk to him. And then he turns around, rolls his eyes, goes over and starts talking to these guys. And then we continue to the store that my mom was at whenever we decided to stop at Starbucks to get something to drink. So after 10 minutes of waiting in line, you know, we turn around and we see these guys standing at the end of the line just staring at us. So we get out of line and we decided to just go straight to the store that my mom was at. And when we got there, we told her what was going on. So she was like, okay, let me get these few things and then we can leave. So like I said, we got out of line and we went straight to the store that my mom was at. And she was like, okay, just let me get these few things and then we can leave. So we start walking towards the exit and then I'm like, Mom, they're still following us. So she turns around and she realizes they're literally standing 2 feet behind us. So we decided to go into one of the stores and we asked one of the employees if they could also call the head of security. And whenever head of security got there, she literally tore them a new you-know-what. After that, my mom tries to go and point out the guys and they're not standing there anymore. So they're like, well, what do you want us to do? And then my mom's like, well, you can walk us out to our car. So they walk us out to our car and then they stand there while we're getting in. My mom starts the car and she starts backing up and we literally run over something. And all of a sudden we hear like screaming and moaning, and the security guards look under the car and literally one of the guys who was following us is literally laying under our cars with a knife. And as soon as that happened, there was literally a van parked right across from our car. The van drove away really fast, but the police ended up catching up to it and they found like 8 girls in that van.
Storytime about how I found out my husband was hooking up with men off of Craigslist. My husband and I have been married for 5 years. This man is the most prudish person I have ever met in my entire life. He never curses. He does not drink. Basically, he's never done anything naughty in his life. When we met, he was the perfect candidate for me. My parents are very religious and very strict. When they saw the way my husband was, basically super uptight, never wanting to do anything fun, they insisted that I marry him. So basically, this is all my parents' fault. To be honest with you guys, I never really was super attracted to him, but I knew that he would be a good provider. He's pretty high up in the company he works for, and he makes north of $300,000 per year. But I do own 2 of my own businesses, so it's not like I need him to survive. But my parents insisted on me marrying somebody who was already well off. And of course, one of my dreams is to become a mother, so I need a man who's going to be able to provide for me and my kids, especially when I'm pregnant. So we ended up getting married. Was there passion and chemistry? Not so much. But we did have a good time, and he would make me laugh. We essentially became really good friends. One day while I was working from home, I needed to get on his laptop to check our cameras. I'd just gotten a new set of security cameras for our house. I needed to make sure that they were all working. I opened his laptop, typed in the password, and it was wrong. I'd always had the same password for the past 5 years. I didn't bother texting him, instead I tried to guess. And because I know this man so well, I guessed it in the first try. But as soon as I log in, there's about 5 Craigslist windows open, all with similar titles. Male looking for male. Male interested in male company. This literally shook me to my core. You're telling me that I'm married to a gay man and that he's hooking up with men off of Craigslist? That's when I went ahead and checked his email, only to find that he had been sending pictures and other things to these men. Not only that, but he had met with 2 of them. I instantly printed out all the evidence. Like I said in part 1, I'm not particularly attracted to my husband. I never have been. I really only married him because my parents pressured me into it. Here's what I did. Instead of just asking for a divorce, I wanted to humiliate him. I needed to make him pay. After printing everything out, I sent it to his job. And I sent it to his parents and my parents. That's when I sent videos of my own husband hooking up with other men to his job, my parents, and his parents. At this point, I had been married to a man that I wasn't attracted to for 5 years, only to find out that he was hooking up with other men. Off of Craigslist. Remember I said in part 1 how prudish my husband was? He always made himself seem like he was the perfect man, like he had never done anything bad in his life. But let me tell you, some of the things I read in those emails, and the pictures, and the video, disgusting. No wonder he put off having kids for so long. And no wonder he made me get on the pill, because he never had the intention of having kids. When everyone received their packages, my husband called me super upset. He said that he had only done it for about a week, and that it was just him experimenting. And he told me that his job put him on suspension. My parents, of course, stopped speaking to him. My mother-in-law calls me on the phone and tells me that she had always known that he was gay. And apparently they insisted on him not marrying me. But he was set on having the perfect wife. The perfect life. We're obviously getting a divorce now, and I'm getting all his money. Or at least I'm gonna try. He's already claiming that I'm obsessed with him, so he wants to get a restraining order. I need to make him suffer even more. How should I do this?
Am I the asshole for kicking my mom out of my dad's old house after finding out what she's been telling my wife? I, 33 male, am beyond angry about this. Some of my siblings are telling me it was an overreaction while also mad at what she did. My wife, Kara, and I were friends for years. She was in a very toxic and abusive relationship for 3 years until she had begged me and our close friends to help her get out. It was difficult, but we made it possible. We all pitched in for her to stay as far away as possible while she got a restraining order and all that jazz. We each took turns going to visit, then she found out she was pregnant, so I helped out more. Her ex passed away from an overdose when my stepson, 7 male, was 4 months old, so since then we all became sort of like uncles and aunts to him. Around that time, I knew I developed feelings for her, but we never did anything because she had a son and personal issues to process. It didn't feel right at the time. But yes, we did start a relationship 3 years later. She's the one who first admired she's in love with me, so things went from there. We just got married. She's 5 months pregnant with our second child. I will say that yeah, my mom had issues at the start of our relationship because she believed Kara was faking what happened to her just to make me feel sorry for her and take care of them. We went through a period of not talking until she apologized, so we mended things somewhat. My mom came to stay at our house, which was my dad's house, until he decided to give ownership to me when they moved. He passed away 10 months ago, and with the economy, my mom couldn't stay where they were living before. We are still trying to work out where she can live long term. I heard my mom get into an argument with my wife because she was trying to redecorate the nursery against Kara's wishes. All I heard was my mom telling her that she's not the lady of the house just because her fake victim sob story worked on me. She looked flustered when I demanded her to tell me what she meant. And basically she held on to that same belief, but she was willing to put up with my choices on who I marry so she doesn't lose me. Everything she had to say infuriated me. And then seeing how upset Kara was by everything, I called my brother to come pick my mom up because she can't stay here right now. My mom wouldn't stop crying not to do this to her for just being honest. She's still at my brother's, but they keep trying to talk to me to let her come back because this was my dad's house, and of course she wants to feel closer to him. But after asking Kara if this is the first time she had said something, she revealed that my mom has told her numerous times what she thinks of her, and she kept it from me because she knew it would hurt our relationship. For that reason, I haven't let my mom come back. It's hard because I know what this house means to her and that she's still sad about my dad, but also can't forgive her for upsetting my wife. So, am I the asshole?
This TikTok is for the girl who shit in a jacket at Forever 21 in Orem, Utah in 2018. If you are not that girl, you can keep scrolling, but I just want to let you know the story from my perspective. So it was on our day of opening. So if you are from Orem, Utah, you know that a few years ago, there was an old Forever 21, and then we remodeled it, and they put us in a temporary store, and then we remodeled it into a bigger store. And so we opened the store on Christmas Eve in 2018, and everything was going great. It was a super hectic holiday weekend. But the new store was great. Everyone who worked with me was so lovely. We were just having a great time, right? And anyway, so busy day. So we went from having 6 registers to having 4, and our line was super long. So I was in between managing that, directing people around the new store, and checking in on fitting rooms and whatnot, and helping the employees with go backs. And I all of a sudden get buzzed over to the fitting room, and they're like, "Hey, Emily, the fitting room smells really bad." And I'm like, "That's so weird. I don't know what to say. I mean, here's some Febreze. That might help." And so I went in there to check, and there was nothing really out of the ordinary, but it definitely smelled foul. And customers were complaining, but there was nothing nothing out of the ordinary. We went through every single room, and there was nothing that really could hint us off. So we just assumed I don't know, someone just let loose or something, and it was just going to dissipate in a little bit. And sure enough, it did eventually kind of subside, and so we kind of stopped thinking about it. It was okay, oh, not my lip, oops. And yeah, so I was running around, we're all running around, and all of a sudden I get called over on the walkies, and they're like, "Hey, Emily, you need to come to the front right now." And so I head to the front, and as I'm walking up, somebody walks up to me, and my employee's like, "Hey, Emily, somebody shit in a jacket, and I don't know how to clean it." And I'm like, there is no way somebody shat in a jacket. There is no way someone shit in a jacket, right? Sure enough, someone shit in a jacket and hid it, on a shelf. And I was like, oh my God, it was a denim jacket, brand new, whatever. And I heard my employee, I'm like, no, I'll clean this up. Frankly, none of us get paid enough to deal with this. And yeah, so I cleaned up human feces, and it was the nastiest turd. I honestly, Homegirl was probably having some issues that day, but if you would have simply asked us for a bathroom, we would have just pointed to the fact that it was literally right next to our store. The public restroom for the mall was right next to our store. And yeah, so I ended up looking at the CCTV footage, and I saw a picture of the girl, and I obviously can't include that, because even though I don't work there, I think I'd get in trouble, and I also don't want to shame this person, but if you were that girl, what the fuck? Venmo me $20.
I've been friends with my boyfriend for years, actually together for about 3 months now. He's the sweetest guy I know, and he's been seriously hurt in the past, and I'm so happy that we're finally clicking after being flirt buddies since MS. We're 25 years old now. Whenever we go out to eat, he always orders the most basic thing 99% of the time. It's a cheeseburger plain, ketchup on the side with honey mustard to dip for his fries. He actually loves exotic food, but he says that the menus and making choices stresses him out, so he doesn't want to buy into the thought of it. I love trying exotic things, and to me, that's the reason to go out to eat. To me, it's so exciting. My issue is things always look and sound better than they turn out to be, and I decide that I actually just wanted a burger. So usually I'll ask him if he'll switch with me, and he always does, and he never complains. Most of the time, he even says how good his food was. To me, it's a win for both of us. It gets him out of his comfort zone, and we don't waste food. Last night, we both had to work really late, so we met up at a sports bar. They were having a calamari special, which sounded really good. He ordered a cheeseburger as usual. I just wasn't feeling the calamari when it came out, so I asked if he'd switch with me. He said no. I asked him why not, and I said that I didn't want it to go to waste. He said then you shouldn't have fucking ordered it. I was like, excuse me? He then went into a tirade and said I treat him like a garbage disposal. He's a grown man. I'm being immature. Don't pin my crap on him, etc. I said it sounded like that was a rehearsed speech. He said maybe it was, since I insist on stealing his food every time we go somewhere. I started crying, and he said don't start that bullshit with me. Here, have both meals, and he got up and walked out. He hasn't called or texted me, and it's 6 in the morning, and I honestly thought he would call to apologize by now. I called my sister, and near quote, "You're an a-hole for waking me up at 5:30, and he's going to see you as asking as insisting. That's really crappy of you to put that pressure on him." And she basically hung up. Am I in the wrong for asking, not insisting, that my boyfriend switch meals with me when I don't like what I've ordered at the restaurant?
Ex's divorce lawyer. Send 3 years of complete financials or else. Me, as you wish. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce/custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I've never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment, as divorce/custody battles often come down to. I couldn't even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer wasn't a total ass, but he clearly was out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day, I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declarations form and 3 years of financials. It had a long ass list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that, and I said this was taking time away from business I needed to handle. To which he replied, and I'll never forget this, well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day? He then said if he didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and IRS, probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. FX is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown. So I asked him if he has a fax machine. He said he had a fax/scanner/copier device, then said what law office doesn't have a fax machine? And I suddenly got an idea. Okay, I said to him, I'll put together and fax whatever I can. Okay, motherfucker. You want 3 years of financials? You got it. I scanned to PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipt from 5 years ago? Fuck it, won't hurt to include it. CVS receipt? It's 3 miles long, perfect. They get the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly/quarterly/annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, P&Ls. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page black background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pages in all caps in the biggest, boldest font that would fit on the page in landscape, 20xx receipts, 20xx taxes, etc. I merged everything into a single 150+ page compressed PDF and sent the document using my FX system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. Huh, that's weird. Well, they're getting this document. So I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird, I was still getting status email failures. I'll delete the failure emails and keep the success one after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax/scanner/printer/copier had been printing nonstop. It kept getting paper jams, kept running out of ink, and they had to keep shutting it off and back on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want a call from the DA or the IRS, I would keep sending until I get a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the documents, and I told a little white lie that my email wouldn't allow an attachment that big. Unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or agree to reimburse me for my costs to print and ship, I said I would continue to fax until they confirm they have received every page. She put me on hold, and the attorney gets on the line. He said forget sending the financials. I said that I would need this in writing, so I will keep sending the fax until he sent that to me. He asked me to stop faxing and he would send it in writing, and I said send it in writing first and then I'll stop. Long moment of silence. Click. About 20 minutes later, I received an email from his assistant with an attached, signed letter in PDF that I no longer needed to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. Every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials again. Edit, all these awards on the Reddit front page? Y'all are too kind. Thank you.